20 years ago, Bain showed us an 80 by 8 delivery gap, famously known as the experience gap. My former colleagues at PwC just proved we haven't closed it. In fact, 9 out of 10 execs think loyalty is growing, while fewer than half of the customers agree. Welcome to Speaking from Experience. I'm Sujay Saha, founder and CEO of CodeEcoX. I spent 20 years inside the machine, Big Four consulting, Fortune 500 transformations, and I kept seeing the same mistake. Companies would say they cared about people, then they hand it off to a customer experience team in the corner and call it done. Stick it in a function, give it a budget, check the box, and wonder why nothing changed. Here's what I believe. Human centricity can't just live with people who have experience in their title. It has to be owned by people who own growth, your P&L leaders, your operators, your builders. The experienced folks need to be in the room, absolutely. But until the leaders driving the business treat human centricity as their job, not someone else's, sustainable growth stays as a talking point, never a reality. This season, I'm sitting down with 10 leaders across industries for honest conversations. Some will share my philosophy, and candidly, some will challenge it. And that's the point. Because the only way to understand what it really takes to win with human centricity is to hear from people in the trenches figuring it out. And one more thing. Everyone keeps telling you AI is making business less human. I think the opposite is true. We will get into that too. I'm Sush, let's go. Today, I am joined by Dane Matthews, Global Chief Digital and Technology Officer at Taco Bell. Now, I could spend the next 2 minutes reading Dane's resume. Taco Bell, McDonald's, Target, Caesars, Conagra, and it would be impressive. But here is why he is on the show. Dane doesn't just talk about customers. He talks about fans. Just last month at NRF's big show, he made the case that in a world full of technology, it is still about humans. And that being memorable, not just seamless, is the secret sauce. At Taco Bell, his team sits at the intersection of culture, technology, and experience, dreaming, building, and delivering digital experiences for both the fans who love the brand and the restaurant teams who run it every day. That's human centricity with a P&L attached to it. Dane, great to have you here.
Sush, so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So let's get started. Taco Bell calls them fans, not customers. That sounds like a brand thing. What's your take on that?
It is, I guess, it is a brand thing, but I would say it's a growth thing. And I loved what you said and the way you reflected on the role of experience as not a function off to the side, but as the center flywheel of growth. And so when it comes to brands, consumers are important, but brands are critical. And in this day and age, I think there's some really good factoids around, well, why fans over consumers? And I would say there's one really important one. In this day and age, it's really hard to stand out. And consumers want to hear from other consumers about the things they like. And so that is the very beginning of fandom. And that is the most important part of driving growth, which is how do you reach consumers in relevant ways? And doing that authentically, I think the fastest way to do that is to tap into your fans and use your fans as a superpower to advance what you do, advance why you do it. And in a way that's authentic and drives growth at the end of the day. And that's all about aligning all your energy behind the idea of fandom.
What a powerful word, fandom. It's almost like kingdom, fandom. So, tell me a little bit more about that fandom, Dane. Like how should the business leaders embrace this word fandom? And what's that personal, if there is like a personal story or connect to your personal professional life that actually really connects it back to fandom and the concept there?
Yeah, this is, well, I would say, like all careers, it's a work in progress. And so my career up into Taco Bell was, really wasn't circumnavigating the idea around fandom. I was really, I was a growth leader for sure. And I was a change leader because I was, doing transformation. But at the end of the day, a lot of my lexicon was all built around consumers. And I was talking a lot about consumers and being relevant and all those good words. When I arrived at Taco Bell, I actually came to Taco Bell, because they had a brand and I had a connection to that brand. But when I went to digital spaces, you could hear the emotion and you could feel the emotion from the Taco Bell. At that time, they were our fans, but they weren't necessarily, I would say, our loyalty members. And so my job was to really, at the end of the day, join the organization and take its cultural heritage around both innovation and developing emotion in its fans, and then turn that into a growth platform, and make that a growth platform. That wasn't a campaign. This wasn't a 6-week thing that we did that we had to figure out how to do again. But this was actually a flywheel of growth that built on not only what Taco Bell was, but what Taco Bell could be in the future. And it's been I would say at the end of the day, it's been a learning experience for me and one of the most transformational experiences I've had in my career. Because it's allowed me to tap into something that I think is actually defendable. What do I mean by that? If you can tap into the functional aspects of delivering experiences to consumers, that's great. And it's also very easy to copy. So how do you defend yourself? How do you create, a kind of defensible moat of growth? Well, you circle your energies around your fans and you help your fans tell your story. And that becomes something no one can replicate.
That's great. I think you used the word innovation. And I know that Taco Bell has always been an innovator. Me personally being like a fan of, chalupas that you guys sell. You guys have been innovators of Doritos Locos Tacos, the Crunch Wrap, the whole food culture. Now you are leading yourself digital and technology on top of that legacy. How do you build digital experiences that feel like Taco Bell and not just like another app with an order button?
Oh, that's great. And that's where Fandom is our superpower. It's actually a little bit of the organizing framework, the way that we think about our work, which is all of those things, the digital stuff, if you will, is all in service at the end of the day of growth. And growth at Taco Bell is all in service of the fans. So it kind of begins and ends with the fans. And the fans are at the center of what we do. And when done well, and it's not, this isn't an exact science. It's not a formula. It's not an equation. But it's a practice. And with a practice, you'll get some things right, and you'll get some things wrong. You'll learn along the way, and it'll tighten. One of the things that I'm most proud of that we launched in 2025 that we're continuing to rally around is this. Really, the fans at Taco Bell used the digital platforms to do something that was really difficult to do in, say, the Drive-Thru, and that was lean into their own taste profiles for their favorite chalupa. So, for example, I don't know your level of spice, Suj, but let's say you and I are both chalupa fans. So you go to the Drive-Thru and you order a chalupa. But if I order the chalupa and I'm my own loyalty member on the app, I can customize my chalupa. I can name my chalupa. And I might name my chalupa, mine's hotter than yours, because it has jalapenos on it. And it also has red cabbage because I do like a little healthy chalupa. But it's super spicy, and I'll give it a name. And I think that name kind of represents me. And if I shared my chalupa with you and you purchased that chalupa, I would get rewarded. And why I really like this example is because this is building on fan energy using our digital channels, but it's creating connection across fans. It's actually really building I would say it's kind of creating the tethers of our loyalty community in a much tighter way. And it's making our products, our capabilities, our experiences, it's kind of pushing them out there in the universe, but not on paid media terms, but in a more earned way. And that's the most relevant way to convince consumers in this day and age.
That's an excellent example. And I'm just thinking about the chalupas. Like, by the way, I think we can beat each other up on who is gonna create like a what you call like a spicier and hotter chalupa. So that's
I like
something that we can definitely go for next time.
Should we do like a future like Hot Ones show or something like that? Like just like we eat hot stuff and just and talk about experience design?
Yeah, why not? Why not? Why not? Exactly. Like the Dane's hot chalupas. How's that?
I like that.
I do have a question though. Like you are also a digital guy who is leading with brand, and Taco Bell has been known for that legacy. What is the line that you, if any, you create between fans having that creative ownership that you just talked about and protecting the brand itself in some ways?
That's a good question. In many ways, I think this notion of protecting the brand, I'm gonna say it this way, Sush. We'll see if this generates controversy and dialogue on the podcast. I think
I love controversy.
Yeah, exactly.
Like any PR is good PR. How is that?
I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm here for. But let's see what happens. I think the notion of protecting the brand, we just like say it out loud, is an important construct for sure. But is it the primary one? If your brand is precious and you hold your brand extraordinarily tightly, then yes, protecting the brand of the universe is going to be very, 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 very important. But if your brand is, basically the mental model in your fans' minds, then what are you protecting? And in your protection, what are you giving up the opportunity to learn and innovate around? The protecting, it seems to feel like branding is a zero-sum game. But I think what I would say with a Taco Bell, with an innovative mindset and a real focus on your fans, it's going to be important to protect your IP, to protect your brand. But along the way, what might you learn to give you a better sense of how big your brand really could be? What are the places your brand could play? And I think Fandom is the most accretive and probably the most risk averse way of actually charting new territories for your brand that have the greatest potential to work, but also reside most closely to the idea of not straying too far and protecting it. I think Fandom and fans actually give you the opportunity to learn and to grow and to understand what your brand could be. And from there, you can begin to draw the lines on where to protect. But I do think, thinking protectionist first is a dangerous outcome because it creates a very brittle brand.
I love that. So, what you are actually saying is you believe that a fan-led experience, if I can use that term, is really helping and will continue to help you scale your business almost as a growth engine, right? What capabilities or operating models you keep in mind and or the businesses should keep in mind as they think about embracing this kind of a way to grow their business?
There are some, I know that's probably an entire podcast just on its own. Because there's so many, there's so many tangents and ways to kind of take the conversation and to organize things. But there's one really important one that's top of mind for me and is certainly top of mind for my team. And I kind of alluded to it, but there's a operative mechanism behind it. And that is, in pursuit of growth, you'll identify great territories of opportunity and great learnings along the way. Just will. And that's a natural part of the process. And it actually, what I find is if you can operationalize this opportunity to listen, experiment, and learn and scale, I think there's real opportunity there. So that's the real operative muscle I would say is really important. Is that you remove the shackles of perfection, if you will. And when I was at NRF, I sensed this too, and everyone's dealing with this, which is, where are you using AI? And how should you be using AI? And at work, like, listen, I'm a commercial leader. So like, I'm supposed to like know stuff and be able to point people in the right direction. And at the end of the day, when you're driving growth and you're driving commercial growth, you need to both organize where are we going. And for us, it's about pursuit our fans, but you need to have an operating mechanism that allows the team and the experience to learn and to grow and to advance. And that's operative in nature. And so we really work to put ideas in the marketplace, single best place. And we try to create real agility around what are we learning and how are we scaling and where are we going next. So long-winded way of saying the operative, the one of the most important operative parts to enable fandom, innovation, all led against commercial growth is experimentation, and to enable your teams to experiment in a way that drives real learnings, optimizations, and then at the end of the day, true growth.
Yeah, I honestly like one of the areas that it pushes me to take a conversation into is the uniqueness of your role, Dane. Like the one thing that really got me excited to even bring you into the show a bit is that you are not a typical digital leader who has built a COE, who owns a COE and is trying to influence the rest of the organization to do certain things. You own it. You are a P&L leader, and you are responsible, accountable for bringing in revenues into the organization and managing the costs to that. It's a pretty big ask of you. And as you do that, I would imagine there must be pressures and opportunities around AI. And I heard you talking about it at NRF last month as well. That really stuck with me. That there is no way you can make a customer's experience memorable with a bunch of screens and AI. I actually believe, if you would allow me, since we started this conversation with like a sense of like, let's try to create a debate and controversy around like what, not intentionally, but like you and I love to fight on some of these concepts. I feel like I actually believe the opposite. I believe that AI is going to be one of the biggest accelerators of human-centered experience we have ever seen. Help me reconcile the two together, Dane, because I know we are on the same page around AI and the efficacy of the outputs that can come out of AI. But where do you see the two meeting the roads in terms of human centricity?
Yeah, I think so let's have a little fun. At the center of every debate is probably truth on both sides in many ways. And so as the first go, I will acknowledge the truth in your statement. And there's real truth in it. When I left NRF, I kind of left with a bunch of factoids, but one important factoid that I brought back was consumers who use AI to make a purchase decision are 82% more confident in that purchase decision. So that's transformative. And certainly for consumers, that's a transformative experience too. I think, the dawn of digital and search and some of that work built confidence. But the fact that consumers are more confident they've made a good choice because of AI is quite powerful. So I totally agree. Where we depart and where the debate really sits is AI will continue to deliver those kind of outcomes, and there will be some great things. I think I remember you talking about in one of our previous conversations being able to go into a restaurant and the AI in the cloud would intuitively know what a consumer might want, and just make it true at the restaurant. What I think AI can do that is more defensible is helping the humans have a more memorable connection. And so in this way, what I'm trying to do, and what I think is important, and when I do this, I actually think about my in-restaurant experiences, which have been which has helped me really contextualize my own thinking around technology. And that is maybe the best application of that AI is to help my team members be able to deliver that same kind of experience. And so my team members are able to deliver that experience. So it isn't the AI that's kind of like waving the magic wand and making all of this experience true. but it's actually the AI helping my team members deliver that kind of experience and maybe something more. And I think at the end of the day, that's truly memorable. And we've seen anecdotes of that in our own work, like really powerful things where when our team members are powered by technology, they're able to deliver an extraordinarily memorable experience to our consumers on their own. And those things have been a real source of inspiration for us.
That truly is powerful, and I agree. And I think it does reconcile for me too. Like if we have to bring in innovation with AI, instead of putting a lot of burden on the customers and the fans and figuring out how do we actually create like a scalable growth with a technology that you and I don't know what is going to get released tomorrow.
Yep.
I think it's a smart idea to start with your employees and try to give them the experience that you're looking at, like what you call like the larger fandom starts within your own home before you actually take it out. So absolutely.
And Sujay, I got an interesting story I like to tell because I think it really epitomizes what I'm talking about. So we created this technology that allows fans to connect in the drive-thru, connect their loyalty account to the drive-thru. There's a whole host of benefits that come from that. So you're kind of celebrated like a fan. So the drive-thru menu board has your name, has your tier status. If you have payment saved in your loyalty account, you don't have to pay in the drive-thru. Payment's already like we'll just do the payment thing behind the scenes. So there's some good features into this. And it does require the team members to work with you to connect your loyalty account. They'll ask you for a 4-digit code. We call this thing internally Connect Me. And in the early days of building the experience, we were in Austin and launching this experience. And a customer comes up to the drive-thru, and the team member says, "Hey, would you like to connect your loyalty account?" And the customer says, "Yeah, 4-digit code." Whole thing shows up. "What can I get for you?" They go through the order, and then the team member, just like they do every time, they say, "Would you like to redeem a reward?" Consumer says, "I'd like to redeem my birthday reward." And the team member is like, "Great, redeem the birthday reward." The customer, the guest, actually comes to the drive-thru window, and the team, Taco Bell team, huddles around the drive-thru window and sings "Happy Birthday" to this consumer.
Oh,
see, look, it did it. It worked. It was memorable.
Yep.
And so now we were so inspired by that idea that we started to turn into a product. And so we're working on that, and that'll launch. And it won't be just screens and confetti if it's your birthday, right? That'll be nice in the drive-thru, but it'll actually be supported by a team member. And that is, it is memorable. It's also really hard to execute. It's extraordinarily hard to execute across, 8,500 restaurants, 250,000 team members. But if you could, that would be something, that would really be distinctive and unique. There are other versions of that out in the marketplace, but I think that would be our version of that. And that actually created an entire set of work around what we are calling meaningful moments. And so what are these other things? So birthdays are obviously a really easy, straightforward one, but how do we find moments and make meaning out of them? And how do we do that in a way that technology will power the meaningful moment for a team member and a customer to have it? And it's I really like that story because it kind of really crystallizes this idea of technology, AI, consumers, and team members all having a more fan-like experience, if you will.
I love it. And a lot of this, Dane, the concepts that you're talking about, of course, you have been implementing at core Taco Bell, and that has been your focus in the last several years. But you have, interestingly, a background with like a lot of other brands too. And a lot of customers, or let's call them, if I continue to kind of extrapolate this concept of fans, the fans that you may have created at McDonald's, at Target, and some of the others. If you take a step back from them, like what is that connecting thread around that you would impart as like a potential concept for the business leaders to consider as they think about building their own fandom for their own brands, what is that learning or two that you would like to leave their folks with?
So the learning is culture. And there's a lot, there's a lot to unpack in your question, but I would say the single thread that I've seen across those brands and industries and spaces is the role of culture. And culture is both, in the universe as well as in your organization. And most simply, the idea of fandom is better connecting the excitement for your brand from the marketplace and ensuring it has a space and a role in your business. And you rally around that culture. And I inherited, Taco Bell, my Taco Bell experience was a great gift. And there are other brands along my journey that also had a similar kind of energy around them. And what you're trying to do is understand what is this fandom that's outside in the marketplace that we can tap into, and how do we bring that inside the business culture so that those two things become aligned. When you align culture in that way, you create this kind of like this cohesion and this tension, really, at the end of the day, between your very, very best customers and your organization. And when you do that, you actually put in motion this kind of flywheel of conversations, and what you do with those conversations is up to every organization. But you create this conversation around not the theory of a brand, but the actual application of a brand and the way people think about it and talk about it. And I think that's the flywheel for growth. Understanding why your best fans, your best, guests and customers, really love you, and how you use that to kind of create, energy inside your organization to pull silos together, to pull thinking together, to pull innovation together, and to align those two things.
Absolutely. Why don't we switch gears for a second, Dane, and let's get personal. It'll be fun.
All right, cool.
Let's imagine in an alternate universe, what would you do for a living if you were not in a digital or technology world?
In an alternate universe, I would teach, and I would be innovating. I guess that's the thing I like most is I like standing in a place that this is where we are, and I like to create the energy around, and this is where we can go. And so that's what I would be doing somewhere else, in another context. And that might be in, I don't know, like in universities or whatever it is, but I would definitely be innovating, and I would certainly be teaching. I really like those things. But I also have a bunch of passion stuff. So those who know me well, know I have an addiction with music and vinyl and records and all those things. But it doesn't stop there. So what if you could have a coffee shop, wine bar, and vinyl store all in one box? That would combine all the things I really, really enjoy. And that might even be next to an art gallery, not to get too weird. But that would be my actual, that's what I'm building energy for. I'm excited for that idea. Lord knows if I'll be able to get there, but I'm excited.
I love that. And before I get too excited about that idea and let you start to think about that a little bit more seriously than what you're doing right now, what's that?
I'm way too busy for that. I'm way too busy.
Way too busy for that. That's right. Let's talk about something that you and I share in common. I remember bringing on this concept of experience activism to you a few months back, and you immediately latched onto that, and we both see ourselves as experience activists, if you would allow me to say that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
People who believe this isn't just a business strategy, it is a responsibility. Both of us see it in that way, right? 5 years from now, what separates brands that have real fandom from the ones still running loyalty programs and calling it a relationship? What do you think is the role of a leader, people like us, in making experience activism a reality for their companies?
We've talked about some of the things, but I'll just kind of like try to pull it all together in a well. And also say like what really resonated with me around experience activism was the second word, activism. I guess at the end of the day, I felt like, a lot of my role and my roles actually have been around change, which means you are actually you are activating against something. And that activism is about change at the end of the day. And so I think that's why it really resonated with me, because I felt like, experiences people know experiences are important, but it actually is how you open. Everyone knows it's important, but it's not clear, but how do you tie it to your growth strategy? And how might you tie it to your P&L? And then how might you operationalize yourself around that? And so that's the activism part. And so, for me, that's why it resonated, because I think at the end of the day, this is an opportunity around growth. All I did was take that concept and kind of insert the word fan, just to really double click on this idea around experience. And all I'm trying to really say at the end of the day, and it's a hypothesis perhaps that's proving out, in my role at Taco Bell, but it's not certain. And that is, maybe the most important experience to create activism around inside any organization are your fans. And it's the most simple, straightforward kind of like thing, which I kind of get a chuckle out of sometimes is, if you're in an organization and you're driving change on behalf of experiences, then maybe the best way to get the organization energized, the people that love you in the marketplace, your consumers and guests that love you energized, is to rally around fan-led experience activism.
Fan-led experience activism.
There's too many words in that. No, it's not. It's not.
I love it, and I don't think there is any better way of actually concluding this episode with that fan-led experience activism. It just brings in the best of both the worlds and make it one. Like, how can you scale the business? Scale the business by looking at fans and be an activist in reality, and which helps you in driving that scale that you're looking at.
I agree, Suze, but it doesn't roll off the tongue well. So you and I, in the next show, we're going to reveal a new word, a new phrase that's going to roll off the tongue better than what I just threw out there.
I love it still. That's a wrap on this episode of Speaking from Experience. I want to thank you, Dane, for being so open and generous with your time and thinking. Conversations like this are exactly why I host this podcast, to go beyond the buzzwords and get into what it actually takes to put people at the center of how we build, lead, and grow. If something in today's episode resonated with you, share it with a leader who needs to hear it. Follow the show so you don't miss what's next. Until then, I'm Suj.